In this video, we want to have a look at the reconciliation for when we ran the HR subset before and after. So there's a previous video to this where we looked at the data that we wanted to ingest. We looked at the 4 users as we see in this common lookup forced user. And in this video, we'll look at Abigail Ackerman and we'll look at her records before and after. So we put her in the forced user update, and then we ran the BIP report, and the extract of the BIP report we see here at the very top. And what was interesting was the SID number and the person number had switched over as per what we wanted. And we've also had developments since then on the login, where from now on we'll just see logins with the before the @ signs going forward. So these are some changes that we've seen since running that report, just bringing us back to where we were with the forced lookup. So we said, okay, Abigail Ackerman, we want to put you through into Worktribe and ingest into Worktribe, and we did. So the pre and the post considerations, whereas we saw this was before the ingest. So I'll just concentrate on Abigail again. So we can see the email at Ackerman 14. We can see the department being mate, for example, here, and the staff identifier 957, and the login email. We can see a little bit here, but we'll look at login details a bit more later. And then if we look at the post ingest, so after the HR ingest, we can see below there's no change in the org unit, it's the same, but we also notice that the email's now updated to DM3, staff identifier has remained the same, and I suppose one of the big things to note is that we just see one user being created on the system, not a duplicate. So that was interesting to note. And we see before Abigail Ackerman over here, and we saw the login details over here for Abigail Ackerman. We see the login was AA514, and that hadn't changed to after. And I'll show you that in a second. And we see the availability of just one line for the staff lookup, and then we see the staff details from a salary perspective, and a little bit on the pension as well, and what that looked like from a budget. So if we wanted to reconcile that, if we go back over to the system, so Abigail was ingested on the system, a BIP report was run, and then she was ingested onto the system. And from a Fusion point of view, her record shows her person number up here where I'm circling. We see her job and grade ladder, and also department mate. We see the salary 57,542. And what's interesting then is if we then go over to Worktribe now, what we'll see is, just trying to get a previous tab, I've got something in my way. Right, what we've got is Abigail Ackerman on the system, and we can see the associated email address is now DM3, and the details, this is in test 4, so this is after the ingest, and we see the details for the staff identifier the same as what we had before. So what had changed was that email address has now changed with the DM3. Departments remain the same. As mentioned, staff identifiers remain the same. And from a user perspective from Worktribe, no changes. The login has remained the same before and after. Org unit has remained the same. When we go to the staff lookup, we now have a line 2. We've got a post-ref E95, which is representative of the assignment number from the Fusion employee record. So that we can, if we then apply to a budget Abigail Ackerman using the post-ref, we then see a line here for Abigail Ackerman. And just to note, there's two Abigail Ackermans. So there's one done where she was applied before Ingest and one after. And so we notice that the salaries are identical, which is a good sign. So this second line represents the second after Ingest, and we see a starting salary of 57,472, which from the employee record is the same. Not sure whether there's so many decimal places down there, but anyway, 57,472 being the same, and pension scheme USS, and we see that also in her employee record. When we look at the element entries, we see the associated pension as well. So we see looking at not every detail, but just getting a rough idea of, did the fusion record come across? What was the difference between pre and post ingest, and do the numbers look right? And I think we do have a lot of confidence in this reconciliation that quite a lot of what we'd expect is there. There's nothing that isn't there at first sight that we haven't seen. So it's good. I'm trying to be as negative as possible. Almost, it's like I'm trying to find why can't I see X, Y, Z? But I'm not finding that at the moment. So it's a good positive sign. So in a reconciliation document, this was the before for Abigail, and so before we see the login as mentioned earlier, and we saw the staff lookup having one line before, we see two after. The salary details 57,472, this is before, and the pension USS before, everything's the same after. And then we look at it from a budget point of view, we see the line. And then when we look at so we've gone through the Worktribe ingest, we can see that was successful for our 4 records, Abigail on the top. And then if we look at Abigail's records, so this is now after, as we see the blue line, and we see the login is the same as before as well as after. We see we have 2 lines and the staff lookup. It just makes it a bit more obvious here than sometimes looking on the system. Salary that we see it's the same before and after, 57,472, and pensions. And from a budget perspective, when we have 2 Abigails here now, before and after applied to the same project, monetary amounts are same in regards to cost to HEI, cost to funder, price to funder, surplus deficit. We can see the purple and the line underneath are the same as well. So this is a view of thinking about ingested employees into HR Worktribe. So we went from our Dev 3 environment to the Test 4 environment for Worktribe, and we see reconciliations of the records, and we will look at some more testing analysis as well, and those results will come up in future videos. Thank you for watching.